Listen here, you is smart, you is kind, you is important. You are all the things. But what you cannot be is responsible for other people's comfort. That's not in the assignment. Let's get into this. Everybody loves the idea of accountability. We love it. We talk about it all the time until you actually hold people accountable. Then suddenly you're doing too much. You're aggressive. My personal favorite. I didn't know that's what you meant. No, you knew. You just didn't think I'd say anything. We're going to talk about it today. Who am I? If you're new, hi. If not, welcome back. I'm Dr. Blair Tinker. I'm the creator of the Tinker Method. I help people level up and lead up at work, in their relationships. My hope is also in your faith. And we're going to do this without shrinking ourselves to make other people comfortable. I've been leading in systems that weren't designed with me in mind. So when I talk about holding people accountable without losing integrity, your reputation, your peace, I'm not theorizing. I earned this. So today I want to show you how to set standards people actually follow. Not because you're loud, you're aggressive, or you're feared, but because you're clear. Oh, I think that rhymed. I love it. Let's talk about why accountability feels so hard. Here's the part that people struggle to say out loud. Accountability is not always the issue. Avoidance is. So most people avoid accountability because they're afraid of being labeled as difficult. They don't want to stir up the waters. They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. Retaliation is huge. They don't want to be misunderstood. They don't want to be seen as emotional or angry. Research backs this up. Harvard Business Review found that 69% of managers avoid difficult conversations, even when avoidance causes a bigger problem. So what happens instead? We over-explain, we overfunction, we silently resent, and we burn out. Avoidance doesn't protect your peace. It just delays the cost. Let's get into this so you can understand that clarity sometimes can be confrontational, but it's clean. It's clean. Give you a real example. I'm in a leadership meeting. We've just received a report based off of a focus group of our team members, and the report is clear. People don't feel like they are safe. They don't feel valued. They don't feel like they belong. The posture in the room, defensiveness. Leaders shifting in their seats, nonverbal saying, I don't agree. Language that is pushing back on responsibility, and it's putting it on the employees. Well, what do they want us to do? I'm sitting here thinking they already told us in detail what they want us to do. I spoke up. I said, they did tell us. They shared this, this, and this. The report actually tells us exactly what to do. I said, our next step isn't to debate their experience. Our next step is to acknowledge what we heard, to name our posture in receiving it, and to clearly communicate what we're going to do differently. Because we may not be able to promise psychological safety overnight, but we can create a brave space. And bravery is built through accountability. They didn't like that. People got uncomfortable, seats started moving, shifting. The facilitator started double clicking on what I was saying, and I could see that that was creating more tension. But here's the truth. Accountability was missing in that room. Nobody wanted to own that the culture was toxic. Nobody wanted to name that productivity had been dropping because people were disconnected. And that's when it hit me. Silence, then clarity, then accountability. Because people don't respect compliance. They respect clarity. So let's talk about what the Tinker Method can do for you. This first part is going to be clarity within yourself first. It starts internally before it ever becomes a conversation. Most conflict doesn't spiral because of what was said. It spirals because of the story we're telling ourselves while we're saying it. When I'm coaching someone and they're stuck, I ask, what conversation are you avoiding or not having well? And usually underneath that is one of three stories. A victim story, this always happens to me. A villain story, they're doing this on purpose, it's intentional. Or there's this helpless story, there's nothing I can do. Those stories feel justified and They're also keeping you stuck. So the real work is asking, what am I pretending to not notice about my role? What do I actually want for myself, for them, for this relationship? And how would I act if I really wanted that? Those are the reflective questions that are going to get us at the core. Now, here's where restorative practice and intercultural skills come in. I got a little bit of expertise in there, or a lot. Let me stop playing with you. When people feel unsafe, they don't become disrespectful, they become protective. So they're either going to shut down or they're going to lash out, typically. Violence or silence, I like to say. So this is where leadership breaks down. We want outcomes without creating conditions. We want honesty without trust. We want performance without belonging. Accountability without adaptation. Here's what I see all the time. They're saying, I don't see the issue. They're saying that they're the problem. They're saying that we're all adults and professionals in this. Or we get to the space where they can say, I can see the difference. Or they get to the space where they can say, I can lead this change. I need you to hear, accountability without adaptation is domination. Real leaders adjust how they communicate so the message can actually land. So let's call it out. Accountability isn't real unless it ends in action, not vibes, not good intentions, action. Every accountable conversation ends with who does what, by when, and how are we going to follow up? I'm sure you've heard this before. It's a process, and it's about holding each other accountable to that process. That's how trust is rebuilt. That's how culture shifts. That's how respect becomes non-negotiable. Let me bring my faith in here. In Matthew 5, Jesus says, let your yes be your yes and your no be no. That's not about being harsh. That's about being whole. Clarity is integrity. Boundaries are honesty. Accountability is love that tells the truth. If you keep saying yes when you mean no, people don't get closer to you. They get confused. God doesn't ask us to be agreeable. He asks us to be aligned. Hold on to that as you're doing this work. And let's be real. Sometimes you do all of this and they still don't shift. Here's a roadmap for you. First, I need you to document the clarity. One recap, facts only. So we're not infusing our evaluations and our inferences. Facts. Doesn't matter how something was said, what was said. Second, escalate with integrity. We're not here to gossip. We're here to produce receipts. And then finally, protecting your energy. You cannot be the consequence for someone else's irresponsibility. It's not cold. It's not harsh. It's just wise. This week, practice just one phrase. Try this one. For clarity, here's what I need moving forward. That doesn't work for me. Here's what will. I love that one. It's in the Respect Toolkit. We agreed on X, Y, and Z. Let's realign. Start small, but just start. Nike. If this helped you, stay here for a while. Subscribe. This channel is about power, clarity, faith, leadership, the way real people live it. Level up, lead up.